All right, so we'll toss today, girls. We'll have, they'll be talking about some expectations from, well, the likes of Mr. Dati Ahmed and politicians, what Nigerians expect of them, especially as we inch closer to the general elections, guys.
Thank you, Chamberlain. Casimir Igbokwe joins us this morning. He is editor-in-chief, Union newspaper. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Let's begin, from back in time. You must have seen some republics, at least two, looking at what I would say is your age, and you must have read up, of course, on Nigeria's history and all of that. This is the fourth republic, the longest we've had so far. What would you say is different in the practice of it and in the people's disposition to this republic vis-a-vis previous republics?
Thank you, Ayo. Meanwhile, I'm over 50, so I'm not a young man.
I just asked the question.
Well, that was his expectation.
Well,
that caused him to ask the question.
Thank you. Well, previous republics and now, there's a big difference. At least before, Nigerians still had some form of liberty, things were good. University students used to have some food, chicken and all that. Go to the universities today, what do we have? These are all offshoots of the democracy we are practicing today. Unfortunately, we had a civil war that broke the First Republic, and then we entered the Second Republic and all that. We've never had it bad. I mean, what we are practicing today. We are supposed to have improved over the years, but regrettably, we tend to be going backwards. It's too bad. Look at what is happening today. In fact, all the indices of life.
Okay. Now, the reason for asking that question is so people have an understanding of where we are coming from and what should be our expectations now going forward. Now, if we were to press the reset button to go back to those glory days and bring them even more glorious, what are the things that Nigerians should expect or demand from those seeking the jobs that they have to offer?
First, security. The state of insecurity in the country today is something else. I mean, Nigeria is at a crossroads. Everywhere, no region is, in fact, nowhere is safe. Nigerians demand security, because without security, nothing else will happen. Nothing else, nothing will happen. So the number one is security. And the principal role of a government is security, welfare and security of the people. Without it, we are not going anywhere. Investors will not come. People will be afraid to do certain things. In fact, right now, people are afraid to travel from one part of the country to the other. If you dare and travel, you just pray that nothing happens to you. Every day we hear of kidnap stories. The other day, 4 Reverend sisters were kidnapped in Imo State. Those who were kidnapped in late March, Abuja to Kaduna train, some of them are still in captivity up till now. So number one is security. Nigerians will expect that those who are angling to rule them now, from 2023, should provide that security. What do we have the armed forces for? What do we have the police for? What do we have the DSS for? If we have all this, I mean, what is the commander-in-chief doing? Is he directing them well? What are the service chiefs doing? Are they doing what they are supposed to do? Beyond security, education, health, these are the fundamental areas Nigerians who want improvement. I mean, talk of education. ASU is still on strike 6 months after. They started this strike in February. Up till now, they are yet to call it off.
Yeah, those who will say that some of the issues you raised are generational. They've literally built up to where we are now. and it's not like they just happened on us. We've had, for instance, ASU in this country have been on strike for like 18 straight months, even though it wasn't under a democratic system of government. You talked about insecurity was something that was happening progressively since this late 70s or so. We've been having of Metatsini and the rest of them, and things have only gotten worse. So perhaps there are institutional fundamentals that we lost over time.
You're right. And we voted the person we thought would, we solve this problem in 2015. I mean, when President Buhari came in 2015, he said 3 basic things: that he will solve the problem of insecurity, that he will solve corruption, tackle corruption, and then fix our bad economy. What are we seeing today? Obviously, he has derelicted his duty. So, if we have problems in the past, do we need to continue to dwell in the past? When a man on top of a palm tree pollutes the air, the flies get confused. People on top, our leaders, the leadership cadre, they've been deceiving and, they've been deceiving Nigerians. That's why the 2023 election has to be totally different.
And indeed, we're at a juncture, a critical juncture in our history now. And yesterday was an opportunity to come up close with the candidates who are presenting themselves for the big job in 2023. So when you listened to them yesterday, did they meet the expectations or the yearnings of Nigerians?
Honestly, 3 of them, unfortunately, Asuwaju Bola Tinubu didn't come. His deputy was there. Atiku, he made some attempts to clarify and then say certain things he wants to do. And then Peter Obi, wowed the crowd with his eloquence. I think he atomized. And I did hear him say that this election will not be about tribe. It is not going to be about religion. It is going to be about competence, about character, about what will you bring on the table, what will you do for the people. This is what Nigerians want to hear now. It is not, oh, he's Fulani, he's Igbo. No. How will you solve the problems we have? If we end up making it a religious or tribal thing, or at the end or during the election you collect 5,000 or 10,000 naira, we are going nowhere. At the end of the day, let's pray we'll continue to have Nigeria. But this is the period we need to elect somebody who will transform this, a transformational leader. That's what Nigeria needs now. I'm satisfied with at least what Peter Obi said. Let me be frank with you. I'm satisfied with his disposition and satisfied with his candor and the way he has been approaching issues. It's not about attacking anybody, saying, it's let them tell us. That is why we want this type of debate from time to time. It is not just sending their spokespersons to keep bamboozling us.
Some would say that the candidate of the Labour Party has not quite, studied the documents, the manifesto of the Labour Party well, that he has been adept at articulating the problems of the country, but really the approach to tackling them is what is lacking. And if we were to look at the vision of the Labour Party, let me just quickly go through one, which is to facilitate the reemergence of a formidable, fulfilled and expanding middle class through full employment, social security for the aged, the unemployed and the deprived. So in that regard, are we hearing the hows rather than the what's obtainable at the moment?
Well, he's just joined the Labour Party. So I wouldn't know. I'm not a Labour Party man. I'm not a politician. I don't know what is happening between him and the Labour Party or whatever their manifesto is. But for me, I believe for the majority of Nigerians, we are looking at the individuals. It's not about party now.
Perhaps that's
the individual. What can you put on the table?
Perhaps that's one of the challenges that we've had over time, Mr. Igbokwe. One in which we look at the individuals as opposed to the institutions that are supposed to get things done. Earlier you spoke about the military, the police, and the rest of them, and it would seem like we just seem to leave those institutions at the whim and caprice of whoever is atop the government. I've had reasons to ask, look, why should the police, for instance, wait for quote-unquote body language of someone to get their job done? So in terms of strengthening of the institutions, what should Nigerians look out for, and how should we compel compliance with the laws that set up these institutions?
It is individuals that will strengthen these institutions. Institutions are just human beings, you know, occupying them.
But those individuals are within those institutions, in the police, in the army, in the DSS, in the FRSC. Individuals are there.
I said before that when a man on top of a pantry pollutes the air, the flies get confused. The man on top, I remember hearing Peter saying, when he was asked about corruption, he said, if I am not stealing, if my family members are not stealing, if those around me, my close aides are not stealing, I mean, over 70% of the corruption we have in this country will be solved.
How is that different from what we heard from the current president? Because he said the same thing. He, as you said earlier, he came on the platform of, I'm going to fight corruption. And
Yes.
people believed him.
Yes.
Go back to when he was in government in between 1983 and 1985. He fought corruption. He fought corrupt leaders. And what we have now is different. So how is that different from what we're having?
Nobody's not doing it. A president is supposed to know
So what's the
what
assurance
is
you
happening.
have? Exactly. So that's the point that I'm
Yes.
making. A politician is going to make statements. It's the House that's all about it, which is why I asked how the institutions can be strengthened to get their jobs done, not bothering on who is talking about what.
That is where restructuring comes in. Atiku Abubakar Alhaji said so. Devolution of powers. We don't need to concentrate everything on top, at the center. No. Devolve powers to the states, devolve powers to the local government. Let whatever the center controls be minimal. Let it be about defense, you know, of this country. You know, if you do that, cast your mind back at the regional, when we had regional government. Nigerians fared better than what we have now. Maybe we should go back to regionalism.
It's
All the
interesting that-
regions, the states.
It's interesting that you talk about restructuring, and yesterday there was a report that said that an approach to tackling a challenge in some of the regions is dividing governors, which is the anti-grazing law. Do you see any of those positioning themselves as having that political will to go all the way with the issue of restructuring, especially with the lack of consensus among governors, you know, at this time on critical issues that should unite the regions?
Well, we have to believe them because, I mean, what do you want Nigerians to do? We have to believe them. Atiku Abubakar, I know, has spoken about this restructuring, you know, and some others. So I know that let's believe that when they come there, they will implement it one way or the other. It's politics. They need to talk to the governors. They need to talk to different strata of the society
Absolutely.
to get what they want.
You know,
that is democracy.
I always see optimistic.
That is democracy.
We have to close this, ladies and gentlemen. I've also seen political parties as recruitment agencies, you know, for Nigerians to select leaders from. Let's just hope that we, as a people, are taking enough notes so that when it's time to employ, we know just who to put where. For now, we have to thank you very much for being a part of our conversation. Casimir Igbokwe is Editor-in-Chief, Union Newspaper. Thanks again for your time.
You're welcome.
Well, talking about security, we'll take a short break, and when we return, we'll talk about that in a bit. Stay with us.